So today we are looking at what has to be the ultimate high-risk, high-reward strategy.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about the incredible rise and then the just catastrophic collapse of an empire built entirely on one man's personal brand.
Sean Diddy Combs. And that figure's just staggering, a $600 million lesson.
It really is.
It's such a paradox, For decades, his name wasn't just a name. It was capital. It was leverage. It was aspiration. It was luxury.
Everything rolled into one.
Our sources show his net worth was climbing, getting close to $1 billion at its peak in 2022.
And then, between late 2023 and the middle of 2025, it implodes.
Shrinks down to about $400 million.
$500 million in value. Just gone in 18 months. And the crucial thing here, and this is why we're doing this deep dive, this wasn't because of a bad stock market bet or a failed product launch in the usual sense.
No, this was a systemic failure of the brand itself. The very thing that built the wealth, the persona, became the liability that just destroyed it.
Exactly.
And that's why we're looking at this as a business case study, not a celebrity story.
Right.
The mission here is to really break down the blueprint. How does a personal brand become actual financial capital? And maybe more importantly, what are the structural lessons you need for survival when that capital turns toxic?
It's a masterclass in just how fragile fame is as a business asset.
A very expensive one.
So let's start at the beginning. The whole strategy was built on turning sheer visibility into actual currency.
His origin story is pure hustle.
Starts as an intern at Uptown Records, gets fired, and almost the next day he pivots, founds Bad Boy Records in '93.
And he has nothing. Almost no startup capital.
But he had two things. He had an incredible eye for talent, signing the notorious Beat
generational talent.
And an instinct for self-promotion that was just unparalleled.
And what's so fascinating is how fast he realized that he had to be the product. Most record execs, they stay behind the scenes. Diddy put himself front and center. He was the architect, the cheerleader, the face of the whole movement.
Absolutely. Just think back to his debut album, No Way Out, in 1997.
Multi-platinum.
It wasn't just a hit record, it was a total brand launch. He's in every single music video. He has that famous walk, that swagger.
Wrapping his own name into the songs.
He turned his whole presence into a kind of financial trademark that just screamed success.
And that intentional visibility, it was revolutionary for the time. He wasn't just producing music. He was producing an entire aspirational lifestyle.
And this is where the risk really starts to build.
Right, because the core philosophy was making himself the same thing as the business.
By the late 2010s, he's worth around $820 million. And you look at the numbers. Most of that is not from music royalties.
Not even close.
It's from the businesses he leveraged that brand into. Sean John, Ciroc.
And that's the critical point for you, the listener, to grasp. Music fame, it has a shelf life.
Finite.
But a personal brand, when you treat it like equity, its potential is almost infinite.
So when he famously said, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman," that wasn't just him being cocky. He was literally defining his primary asset. His public image became his private equity.
Exactly. It let him walk into boardrooms and cut deals that other celebrities just couldn't touch.
Yeah.
When you bought a Sean John shirt or a bottle of Ciroc,
you weren't just buying the thing.
No. You were buying a piece of the Diddy persona, the ambition, the luxury, that feeling of making it.
And that leverage was so powerful, it let him scale across completely different industries. Which is, that's the multiplier effect in action.
He wasn't just throwing things at the wall. He was creating this gravitational pull around his brand.
A masterfully sequential strategy, too.
Yeah, you see the pattern. He starts with culture, the music. Then he moves to tangible things that reinforce the image. So, fashion.
And then finally, the big scalable assets, the long-term plays.
Spirits and media.
Okay, so let's break down Sean John. The fashion venture, launched in 1998.
And again, you have to understand, this wasn't some cheap celebrity line in a department store.
No way. He treated it like a real fashion house. It was full-on urban luxury. At its peak, it was doing over $525 million in annual sales.
Which is just a massive number. He wasn't just selling clothes. He was defining a whole culture.
And he proved the brand had actual clout, within the establishment.
He won that CFDA award in 2004.
The Menswear Designer of the Year. For anyone who doesn't know, CFDA is the Council of Fashion Designers of America. It's like the Oscars of fashion.
It validated the whole thing. It showed his influence went from the street all the way to the runway.
But the real financial engine, The deal that proved his genius in structuring these deals, that was Ciroc.
That partnership starting in 2007. This is the moment he completely changes the celebrity endorsement model forever.
Right. Before him, a star got a check, a flat fee, you pose with the bottle, you cash the check.
Diddy walks into Diageo for Ciroc, and he demands equity.
A 50-50 profit share.
Tied directly to growth. Not a lump sum, he was betting on himself.
And the growth under his direction it's almost hard to believe.
Get this. When he signed on, Ciroc was selling about 40,000 cases a year.
Which is tiny. A boutique brand.
Within a decade, powered almost entirely by his marketing of that aspirational nightlife identity. Sales exploded. Over 2 million cases a year.
And all that exponential growth went straight into his pocket. His equity.
The Ciroc case is the clearest example you'll find of a brand being treated as private equity. He wasn't selling vodka, he was selling the idea of the party, the velvet rope.
The lifestyle.
And that influence was directly monetized.
And then the final piece of this empire, Revolt TV, 2013.
This showed he got it. To truly protect and scale your brand, you have to own the platform.
Right. He wasn't just trying to go viral on someone else's network.
No, this was about media ownership. It was about empowering Black creators and, critically, owning the narrative.
By having his own media outlet, he controlled the filter.
So when you put it all together,
yeah.
Fashion, spirits, media, the center of gravity was always him.
Sean Combs. The persona ambition, self-belief, that high-end luxury was the one unifying product.
And that's what let the empire cross that billion-dollar valuation mark. He was a master of compounding his own influence.
Which brings us to something that I think gets lost in all the glamour. The level of calculated precision it took to maintain that billion-dollar facade.
Absolutely. The public saw the spontaneous showman, the life of the party.
But the sources all confirmed that success was built on obsessive calculation and control.
His public image was not an accident.
No, it was curated with surgical precision. People think of this chaotic celebrity lifestyle, but it was the opposite. He was meticulous.
Rehearsing his movements, choreographing how he walked on a red carpet.
Styling himself, personally approving every single photo that went out to the media. The brand could not afford a single moment of perceived weakness.
He was living by that mantra he always talked about. You have to protect your brand like your life depends on it, because it does.
And when he launched Revolt, he was reportedly obsessive. Personally overseeing the color palettes, the tone of the editing.
Making sure every single element projected that powerful, disciplined image.
It required this quiet, relentless discipline that was a world away from the nightclubs.
It was about preventing any of the personal chaos from leaking out and, undermining that carefully built image of power.
And that intentionality, it flows right into his philosophy of just creating.
Don't wait, create it. That was his mindset.
He didn't wait to get signed. He founded Bad Boy at 24. He didn't wait for liquor brands to respect his culture. He forced the Ciroc equity deal.
He was never just maintaining. He was always anticipating, placing huge bets.
Guided by that belief, if you don't evolve, you evaporate.
That aggressive, proactive power is what fueled the growth. But, as we said at the top, when you are the business, the risks are just magnified tenfold.
And that leads us directly to the reckoning.
The fatal flaw was always there, right?
Yeah.
Tying $1 billion of enterprise value to one man's reputation.
And here's where the personal liability becomes financial liability. That devastating $600 million value destruction.
The brand partnerships, which were the lifeblood of the whole thing, they just collapsed, almost overnight.
The sources lay out the sequence. Over a dozen lawsuits surface, alleging misconduct, abuse, trafficking.
And the core value of the brand, that aspirational luxury, it's just replaced by toxicity. Sean John, the fashion line, is mothballed immediately.
Revolt TV, which relies on advertisers, faces a mass exodus.
The loss was systemic because the value of those businesses was tied directly to his image.
When the image dissolved, the money just vanished with it. Net worth goes from $1 billion down to $400 million.
Which brings us to a really crucial legal nuance that explains why the whole thing, while battered, actually survived.
Yes, we need to be very clear about the reported legal outcome here.
In May 2025, a federal jury finds him guilty on 2 charges related to transportation to engage in prostitution. But, and this is the key, he was cleared of the much more severe ICO-based crimes.
So things like human trafficking and running a criminal enterprise. And that distinction is the whole ballgame. For anyone listening, RICO is the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act.
And a RICO conviction would have allowed the government to seize the entire financial estate.
Everything. Because the premise would be that the whole thing was built as a criminal enterprise.
But since he was cleared of those enterprise-level crimes, the rest of the empire legally stayed intact.
So the brand couldn't save him from the scandal?
No. But the legal and financial fortresses he'd built over decades, they provided the foundation for survival.
Which is why he didn't go bankrupt, even after losing 2/3 of his fortune.
He didn't just build fame, he built durable, diversified structures.
So what survived? The long-term holdings. His music publishing catalog, which generates passive revenue.
His real estate portfolio. And crucially, the equity he'd already banked from Ciroc during its peak years.
The business takeaway here is just so stark.
Visibility and influence are incredible multipliers for success, but they also multiply your risks.
If your brand is your business, every choice you make is amplified. Your wins are bigger, but your sins or alleged sins are just so much costlier.
The final contrast is just stunning, isn't it?
He built an empire selling belief, selling an image of untouchable perfection.
And that same image that amplified his wins ultimately amplified his downfall, to the tune of $600 million.
But what's left is the brutal truth about what actually lasts. He's bruised, fractured, diminished.
But he is still financially solvent because he built structures that could operate even when the image collapsed.
And the lesson for you, the listener, I think is paramount. You already have a personal brand in every email you send, every choice you make.
Every room your name is mentioned in.
The real question is, what is that brand driving you to build? Are you just building fame, which is this volatile, high-risk asset that can vanish overnight?
Or are you building foundations?
Yes.
Diversified, durable structures that can actually withstand a storm?
Because at the end of the day, when the headlines turn and the lights dim, your brand will not save you.
No, but the truth beneath the brand, the ownership, the strategy, the financial structure, that just might. The price of being seen is visibility, but the real reward is what you build that lasts long after that spotlight fades.